Welcome to Outta the Box with me, Sean-William Dawson, artist extraordinaire. And this is a show where I make works of art out of stuff that you guys send me. For this first one, or this one that I'm going to be doing right now, this was a box given to me by my friend Sean Ryan. Sean Ryan I've known since he was in grade school. We grew up in Orangeville together. So I'm really excited to see what he sent me. Now I've asked people to send me an image, a two-dimensional item, and a three-dimensional item. And then I'm going to make some sort of work of art that reflects in the world around it. So the first thing is the image. The image that he has sent me is an image of him, his wife, and their little baby. Now, and their dog too. Sorry, I forgot the dog. I will not be doing a piece about Sean and his family. I will be doing a piece that sort of reflects on other stuff in the world. So right now I'm getting a feeling about family, about unity, right? Because Sean has been like a family member to me growing up as well. So that's where I'm starting to think there, right? The three-dimensional item, little toy giraffe. It's so cute. So once again, maybe even families in the animal kingdom. I don't know where that could be going too, right? Or generational. That's where my mind's starting to go. And the last thing is a two-dimensional item. And it looks like it is a baby blanket. It's a very nice baby blanket full of stars. Right? Very soft, very large. And this is actually a really great surface for me to work with too. I'll be able to stretch this and have a good starting point for this work of art. So let's see where I can go with it. All right, here we are, back with episode 2. And right now, we've already done the unboxing. Now you're looking at me building the surface again. Yes, it's the same method that I'm using when I did episode 1. And this happens to be the same thing that I do for a lot of the things when I have items that I foresee being bolted onto the piece. And so I'm building a stronger structure to bolt pieces onto it later on. So what I want to do, instead of talking about the same old junk that I talked about last time, the reused 2x4s, blah, 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 blah. What I want to do is actually talk about one of the toughest things I've had to do through this body of work. And that is separating myself and my relationship with the people that have sent me this stuff. In this case, I have actually been sent this stuff by one of my longest time friends and someone I consider close to me like a brother, Sean Ryan. And Sean Ryan and his wife Christina had sent me this stuff to when they had their first kid, Liam. And Liam, cute little guy, I had an art exhibit back in February of 2023, and he was the youngest person that I had come to my art show. And you can check out the pictures right now. So, I had a hard time, not a hard time, but I really had to make sure and be aware of the fact that I couldn't have this piece influenced by my relationship with Sean and this piece. But if you look at the items that were given to me, they weren't about his relationship with me. They were, if you look at them, it was a baby blanket, a picture of him and his wife with their baby, and a baby's toy. So you know it's about family. And so that was the inspiration. It does not matter, I will repeat, it does not matter that I know him and know everything about him and his life, okay? This is about this piece, and I'm going to give you a little foreshadowing here. This is about family. So, with this piece, just like the structure that I built in the episodes before, I'm using gesso and GAC 100, except for right now, Tony, my man, will probably put some inserts of the actual products that I use for this, not for sponsorship, but because just so we have some different shots and you guys can see what I'm talking about. Gesso is the white primer that people use and artists use, so it is a primer, and GAC 100 is an adhesive. I also once I brush on the GAC 100, I smooth out the sheet as smooth as I can get it, because I like the aesthetic of that. I think it should look like a stretched canvas. Now, the other thing I like to do is I still try to keep with traditions. And the one tradition that I've always been taught is how to stretch a canvas. And since I'm not using a canvas, I still think that I should still keep that aesthetic with it. And so I try to, at the end, staple all the leftover stuff that goes around back. I try to stretch it like a canvas. Believe it or not, this is also another secret technique of mine, because now if I stretch it properly, I do not have to frame the piece, which is a huge pain in my butt. Now, this is a great example of how I like to use textbooks and images and everything from the past. You'll see that it's a book all based on Canada, all right? And I'll explain why I'm using this book and why I'm using these images in the final wrap-up. But in conceiving a piece, I have such a plethora of pop culture imagery and materials that I know where I want to go. Well, once I get an idea, I go on that track, and I think about what I have in my collection that can then be utilized for the final piece. And right now we're going to show some of the books, just some of the books that I have as a resource for myself to cut and use for the final pieces. So if you notice, when I cut these out, I'm being very particular how I cut it. I'm very precise. I'm making sure I'm paying close attention to the actual size. I'm not trying to alter the piece. I'm not trying to alter the image. I'm not cutting out little chunks that I need. I like to use the original image as the way it's presented to me. Now you'll also see that what I'm doing now is I'm laying out all three pictures how I think they might go. And this is nice. I'm not pasting them down yet. That comes later on. What I'm doing is I'm placing them because I'm playing with something called composition. All right. This is how a work of art flows. And so in this case, I think the middle piece is a little bit bigger than the other ones. And what I do once I have the placement of it and I'm happy with it, I actually tape it down. Later on, I will adhere them to the piece, but right now I'm going to tape them down, and I'll explain why I just tape them down now as opposed to paste them down later on. So right now we are seeing a nice, half decent, clear shot of the layout on my drawing table. I'm starting to figure things out and figure out the composition of it all. All right. I like to that's why I do things on layers too. I can sort of place them around like pieces in a puzzle that I'm not sure what the final picture is yet. Drawing at my table. Man, like I said before, this is my happy zone. This is where I draw. This is where I'm in my zone. I'm in my music. And we'll talk about my music influence in a little bit. But this is where it starts to come together. This is where I start to realize whether it's going to be successful or if I need to spend more time at this drawing station, my think station, and go further with it. So right now, also, like, what I also do, if you notice, is that here's a great example of how I work with ink. I dip my brush in, I scrape it off the side, and I work with it. One of the biggest mistakes I see people do is they dip their brush into paint or into ink, and then they start to paint with it right away. Think of this whenever you're doing a work of art. If you're an artist doing a work of art, or a young aspiring artist, I should say, doing a work of art, you can always add more, you can't take away. So I dip my brush in, I scrape it off, I dab it off on my drag, and then I work with it. Because I can always add more, but to take away ink is a big pain. All right, so that's why I do that. All right, so now what I'm doing is I'm actually projecting the image just like I did in episode 1, but this time what's different is that I'm actually projecting the original photo that was sent to me as opposed to the drawing that I did of the photo. Now, I always do a drawing of whatever I'm going to do, no matter what. It doesn't matter if I'm going to use the drawing for the projection or the original photo. The drawing does come in handy throughout the entire process, and especially if I want to do a silkscreen print, which we can check out in other episodes in the future. But I want to do the original photo this time and use the original photo because with the projection or projector that I use, the end size is better if I use the photo as opposed to the drawing. I also like to use the original photo as much as I can because I'm going to get the most details out of that, right? All right, once again, I'm using the same gessos as I did before, the white gesso and the pink gesso. I always love how I use the white. It's like, poof, It's a magic trick. The image appears. And then I use the pink gesso. And the reason I'm using the pink gesso again is because I am going to go into this piece with the same material that I used in episode 1, which is called water-soluble pencil, where I get to draw and then I brush it in with water. And it's this beautiful, beautiful mixture of drawing meets watercolor. And once again, I'm still tracing the image onto it from the original photo and the projection. And I like this. I use a very hard lead. I use a 4H lead with this because that gives me a sharp line and it gives me a good idea of where to start with. One thing that you may notice throughout this episode is you'll see me do little jigs, little or getting in the groove of things. The reason being is that one of my biggest influences in life is music. I've seen over 700 bands in concert. I worked with tons of bands in my life, and I love music. Love music. And I will not make artwork without listening to music. I believe in this case I was listening to a band called the Weaker Thans, one of my all-time favorite Canadian bands. And when I get into it, I get into the groove. I start to shake, I might dance, I influence, and I draw. All right? And you might think it's funny. I'm just being honest. I'm trying to teach you guys about the process of what an artist goes through. At least me as an artist, what I go through. And I have no shame in it. I think what I do is great. Okay, I think what I do is valid. And the music I listen to is good music. It really is. And if I feel like shaking and grooving and getting into the music, what's wrong with that? To me, at the end of the day, it's joy. And art is about time and place. And that's what I was into at that time and place. All right, right here, we have a nice little shot of me trying out the three-dimensional object that was sent to me in this box. And it's a little giraffe. I've nicknamed him Jeffrey. And my fellow artist, my print tech, Clinton Todd, love that name for the giraffe. So we called him Jeff. Jeff the giraffe. I'm putting Jeff up in this piece to see where it could fit in, right? And I think I found the right spot. All right, right now we're at the stage where I'm pasting down the images. I've finished the drawing. I'm happy with the drawing. And I am superstitious, right? I have a certain method and certain timing with my work, and I will not paste down any of the cutouts that I make or that I find until I'm done the drawing and done the other stuff, because you don't know how things change, right? Things can shift. Things can change up during the process. And once you've pasted it down, it's pasted down. I can change a drawing a little bit. I can change the position of where I've bolted something down. I can't change where I've pasted something down, because if I go to peel it off, the image is ruined. So that's why pasting down is the final step. Once I have the final step done, I have the second final step, and that's actual bolting of the piece too. And I'm bolting down Jeff right now. And next is the big reveal. So drum roll, please. Get ready. Here we go. All right, welcome to the big unveil. This is the piece that I am titling Against the Grain. And it's named after the first punk rock album I ever got into, which was Bad Religion, Against the Grain. And I like that term because, well, it means a lot, right? I'll sort of wrap that up at the end. So this piece, all in all, even though I explain how this is, I know who this is in this piece. I know his story, Sean Ryan, and his wife, Christine. I know their story, but I didn't want to make it about them. I can't, and that's my whole object, is I don't want to make these pieces about the people. It's about making them a piece that can stand on its own within the world. So even if I looked at this outside of myself, the box just screamed new baby, new family, new start, right? And so that's what I thought. I know the one thing was a baby's toy, and it was a baby's blanket, and it's a picture, an image of this couple holding this brand new baby. So I wanted to do that because I myself am a parent. I'm married. I have 2 kids. And becoming a family, creating a family is an incredible thing. And the reason why I broke down, or there's the 3 pictures that I cut out of the Canada book, is because when you start a family, it's a brand new landscape, and you're looking out to the future. You're looking out what could be. You know, you don't see all the little buildings individually. You don't see all the little stories that are going to happen. But together at the end, you create your own landscape with this being that you've put out into the world, right? And that's another tie-in with the pictures. It's pictures of the world, right? You're creating this world. And I like the giraffe because it also hints at height and having a bit different view. And when you become a parent and a family, you have a different view. Now, this painting, and it's a painting because I used water-soluble graphite, I didn't do a lot of details in the face, and the face is, not even the dog's face. And the reason being is I wanted to try to make this as generic as possible. I don't want to look at it and see Sean Ryan and his wife, right? And their baby. I want to see just a family that's unknown to me. And so I tried to leave as little details as possible. There's also an artist out of Manitoba that I really like named Brenda Draney. I think she's out of Winnipeg. And she paints everything from memory, and things are sort of dream-esque because she said no one's memory of anything is perfect. And so I like that approach, and I wanted to do it where this is a brand new family and they're not quite defined. Things are going to evolve, right? And the thing is too is that, here comes the name, I grew up in the skate punk scene. I was a horrible skateboarder, couldn't play any instrument, but I loved the scene. And I always tried to go against the grain, right? And I find that nowadays, one of the things you can do, right, to really go against the grain is actually start a family. A lot of people don't do it anymore, you know, with the intent of creating a great family. And so to me, this is very symbolic of the modern day person that wants to go against the grain. All the incredible music that you've been hearing throughout this episode, and in fact, throughout the entire season this year, is brought to you by the wonderful artists and people at Tarantula Tapes. Please check out their Bandcamp page so you can grab any of the awesome music that's on it.